He claimed to have hidden a treasure somewhere in the New World. So people made the connection between Teach and Oak Island.
What if everything we thought about Oak Island was only the beginning? For over 2 centuries, this island has guarded a secret so deep, so carefully hidden, that it turned explorers into believers, and believers into legends. People came searching for treasure, but what they may have uncovered is something far more powerful than gold. Because now, for the first time, the evidence isn't just pointing somewhere, it's speaking. Fragments pulled from deep underground are no longer mysteries, they're answers. Real, physical proof that something extraordinary was placed there long ago. Something valuable, something intentional, and something that was never meant to be found. And the number attached to it? $270 million. Not a guess, not a rumor. A figure built on science, analysis, and discoveries that are changing everything we thought we knew. Because this isn't just a treasure hunt anymore. This is history. Waking up. If you're ready to uncover the truth behind Oak Island's greatest secret, make sure to subscribe and don't miss what comes next. Welcome back, everyone. This is where the story takes a major turn. Up until now, the focus has been on proving that something exists deep underground. And that question has finally been answered. There is something there, solid, sealed, and scientifically verified. But discovering that something exists is only the first step. The real challenge is understanding exactly what it is. Now, the investigation pushes forward. The data collected earlier revealed a sealed chamber containing non-ferrous metal, along with well-preserved organic material. But now, with actual fragments in hand, researchers can go deeper. They can determine what kind of metal it is, where it may have originated, how long it has been there, and how much of it could still be hidden below. This is where things get serious. The value attached to these findings, both historical and material, has climbed to a level that makes people pause. That $270 million estimate is no longer just speculation. It's backed by physical evidence pulled straight from the ground. The recovered fragments are now being examined using advanced scientific methods. Techniques like X-ray fluorescence, mass spectrometry, and carbon dating are being used to break down every detail. Surface characteristics are studied through spectroscopy, revealing patterns and histories invisible to the naked eye. This isn't guesswork. This isn't a rough field analysis. These are precise laboratory procedures carried out by experts whose reputations depend on accuracy. And when these tests are applied to the recovered material, the results that come back are clear, confident, and impossible to ignore. These results don't just hint at possibilities or point towards some vague conclusion. They define what's been found. And that identification becomes the backbone of the $270 million valuation that now dominates the conversation. This isn't built on legend or guesswork. It's grounded in hard scientific analysis of real fragments recovered from a confirmed, sealed chamber deep beneath Oak Island. The drill didn't just hit something, it brought pieces of it back. And once those pieces reached the lab, the mystery started turning into answers. Answers that led to a number far bigger than anyone was expecting. Let's talk about those fragments. When the core samples arrive for analysis, they look exactly like you'd expect from deep drilling, covered in layers of sediment, partially hidden within surrounding geological material. At first glance, nothing stands out. But that changes quickly. Each piece is carefully cleaned, separated, and documented as the team begins breaking down what's actually there. The first major group of fragments identified is metallic. Small pieces, pulled from the exact depth of the confirmed chamber. Once the sediment is removed, the reaction is immediate and completely genuine. The color stands out instantly. The shine, even after centuries underground, hasn't faded. And when handled, the weight tells its own story. Even before advanced testing, the initial conclusion is clear. Gold. But not just any gold. This isn't raw, naturally occurring material you'd find in rock. These pieces show clear signs of refinement. They've been processed, shaped, and worked by human hands. This is manufactured gold, metal that was deliberately created for a purpose and then placed inside a sealed space, untouched for centuries. The second category of fragments is less visually striking, but just as important. These are organic materials, small pieces that appear to have once been part of larger, crafted objects. What makes them remarkable is their condition. Despite their age, they've been preserved extremely well, protected by the sealed environment of the chamber. And their shapes don't look random. They show signs of design, of intentional creation. These aren't natural remains. They're pieces of something that was made, something used. Comes the third category, smaller in quantity, but possibly the most revealing of all. These fragments, when tested, show a composition that doesn't match anything typically found in the region. Early spectroscopic analysis reveals a unique alloy, one with a distinct elemental signature. And when a specialist examines it, the identification comes almost immediately. The composition aligns with medieval European metalwork, specifically techniques used between the 12th and 15th centuries. In simple terms, this material didn't originate here, it was brought here. Now, the field observations are compelling on their own. But what truly changes everything is the lab work that follows. This is where speculation ends and confirmation begins. The gold fragments are analyzed using X-ray fluorescence, revealing their exact elemental makeup. The results show a level of purity that points to advanced refining methods, far beyond what you'd expect from raw, natural gold. This level of craftsmanship is consistent with skilled metalworkers from medieval Europe. And here's where it gets even more surprising. This gold predates any officially recorded European activity in the area by centuries. The organic fragments go through carbon dating, and the timeline lines up. Their age falls within the medieval to early Renaissance period. Even more interesting, their composition suggests they weren't valuable items themselves, but protective materials, possibly textiles or treated leather used to wrap or store something important. In other words, they weren't the treasure. They were what protected it. The alloy fragments from the medieval period are what truly bring everything together. Once fully analyzed in the lab, their elemental makeup closely matches metalwork produced in specific European centers between the 12th and 15th centuries. The specialist presenting these findings is measured and precise, choosing her words carefully, but her conclusion leaves no room for doubt. What's been recovered points to a high-value medieval European deposit. Every detail lines up: the composition of the metal, the purity of the gold, the presence of protective organic materials, and the remarkable level of preservation. All of it tells the same story. This material wasn't sluchino formed or left behind. It was intentionally refined, crafted, wrapped, transported, and then deliberately sealed underground centuries ago. And based on the drilling data and the mapped size of the chamber, this isn't a small cache, it's something much larger. Now, that's where the $270 million figure comes into play. This number isn't random. It comes from a detailed valuation process carried out after the lab results came in. The team didn't just look at one factor, they considered multiple layers of value supported by both the fragments and the chamber data. First, there's the raw material value, the amount of non-ferrous metal, primarily gold, suggested by the chamber's size and the density readings is significant. By combining fragment data with those readings, experts estimated the total gold content. Even at basic market prices, the value is already massive. This part of the calculation is the most straightforward, relying on measurable data rather than interpretation. Then comes historical value. This isn't just gold, it's medieval European gold, refined using techniques tied to specific traditions. Finding material like this in a sealed and untouched deposit dramatically increases its importance. As an archaeological discovery, it would be considered extraordinary. Its worth goes far beyond weight. It carries immense significance for historians and researchers worldwide. And finally, there's contextual value. This isn't a scattered collection of artifacts or a disturbed site. It's a complete, sealed deposit, organized, preserved, and untouched. Discoveries like this are incredibly rare, especially in a pre-colonial North American context. The story behind it, who brought it, why it was hidden, adds another layer of value that can't easily be measured. When all three factors are combined, the estimate reaches a baseline of $270 million. And even that is considered conservative. The chamber hasn't been fully opened yet, and the total contents haven't been directly measured. Once it is properly excavated, the actual value could be far greater. When Marty Lagina hears this number, he approaches it exactly as you'd expect, methodically. He doesn't react emotionally. Instead, he asks the key questions. How solid is the method? What assumptions were made? What's the margin of uncertainty? The answers come back clear and well supported. And once they do, he gives a simple response that captures the weight of the moment. This is a real number based on real evidence, about something real. But among everything recovered, one fragment stands out above all the rest. It's small, easy to overlook at first, but its importance is enormous, because on its surface are markings, not random scratches, not simple decoration, but deliberate, precise engravings made with clear intent. These symbols follow a recognizable pattern, a structured language. When the team's historical expert examines it closely, her reaction says everything. She pauses, studies it carefully, and when she finally speaks, her tone is controlled. But the implication is powerful. The markings align with symbols linked to medieval religious orders, groups that were active between the 12th and 14th centuries, and historically connected to the movement and protection of valuable assets. This changes everything, because it means this fragment didn't come from pirates. It didn't come from later treasure hunters. It came from individuals operating within an organized system, one with the resources, the knowledge, and the purpose to carry out something as complex as what the Oak Island evidence is now revealing. The room falls completely silent after that statement, because what she's really saying, carefully, professionally, fully aware of the weight behind her words, is that the biggest question of all may finally have an answer. Who built the underground system on Oak Island, and why? And that answer isn't just an idea anymore. It's sitting right there, in the form of a fragment on her table. For years, people have talked about medieval religious orders being connected to this mystery. Those ideas were always treated as theories, interesting, but unproven. Now, that changes. What once sounded like speculation is becoming something stronger, a hypothesis backed by physical evidence. And that shift, from theory to evidence-based hypothesis, is massive. It's the difference between guessing and actually knowing. Now step back and look at the bigger picture. When you combine a $270 million valuation with verified medieval fragments, the entire Oak Island story changes forever. Not just for the team, not just for viewers, but for the wider world that has always watched this mystery with skepticism. Because this is no longer just a treasure hunt. We're looking at a confirmed sealed chamber, scientifically analyzed fragments of medieval European gold, organic materials dated to the same time period, and a marked piece carrying symbols tied to real historical institutions. That's not entertainment anymore. That's history. And discoveries like this don't stay in one place for long. This is where larger forces step in. Universities, museums, research institutions, even government authorities. These are the kinds of organizations that now become part of the story. Something of this scale demands oversight, study, and preservation. Even that $270 million figure, it's more than just a headline-grabbing number. It represents a threshold, the point where legal frameworks, academic interest, and global attention all collide. From here on out, everything about the excavation has to be handled differently. For Rick and Marty, this marks a turning point. What started as a personal mission is no longer just theirs to control. The discoveries, the chamber, the gold, the marked fragment, they belong to a much larger story, one that stretches far beyond Oak Island and far beyond any single search effort. This is history now, and with that comes responsibility. Rick has always approached the search with that mindset, but now it's no longer just a belief, it's a reality that demands action. The treasure field has been confirmed, the value has been estimated, the origin is starting to reveal itself. And the real challenge moving forward isn't just finding more, it's making sure everything is handled the right way, with the respect and care that something this significant deserves. Think about what we're looking at. $270 million. Medieval European gold, refined with advanced techniques, linked to the movement and protection of immense wealth. This is the moment where the mystery transforms. It's no longer about if something is there, it's about what exactly is there, and how it's going to be revealed to the world. The drill pulled the truth up from the depths, the lab revealed exactly what it is, Experts put a real value on it, and that marked fragment may have finally exposed who was behind it all and why. But now it's your turn. Does the $270 million estimate shock you? Do you think those symbols prove a connection to a medieval order? And what do you believe those organic materials were protecting all this time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every single one. And if you don't want to miss the next breakthrough, hit subscribe right now and join us as we uncover the truth step by step. Until next time, this is no longer just a mystery. The answers are starting to take shape, and after centuries of silence, Oak Island's greatest secret is finally coming into the light.